Backlash growing over the Republican response to U.S. President Joe Biden's State of the Union address when Alabama Senator Katie Britt falsely linked the story of a woman being sex trafficked to the president's immigration policies. The woman in question is now speaking out exclusively to CNN. CNN's Rafael Romo with the story.
I have known Carla Jacinto since 2014. CNN profiled her story as part of CNN's Freedom Project, which seeks to raise awareness about modern-day slavery. Jacinto says she's very careful about who she gives her testimony to and how and when she does it. So she was very surprised, she told me, when she found out on Saturday that she was involuntarily put in the middle of a social media storm. This storm was prompted by what appears to be the use of her story during the Republican response to the State of the Union address by Alabama Senator Katie Britt. I reached out to Carla Jacinto in Mexico City for her reaction, and this is part of what she told me. At one point when I met you years and years ago, you told me that you felt like at the beginning Mexican politicians had taken advantage of you by using your story for political purposes. Do you feel like that happened once again here in the United States?
Yes, in fact, I hardly ever cooperate with politicians because it seems to me that they only want an image, they only want a photo, and that to me is not fair. I work as a spokesperson for many victims who have no voice, and I really would like them to be empathetic. All the governors, all the senators, to be empathetic with the issue of human trafficking, because there are millions of girls and boys who disappear all the time. People who are really trafficked and abused, as Senator Britt mentioned. And I think Senator Britt should first take into account what really happens before telling a story of that magnitude.
Carla Jacinto also told me that Senator Britt got many of the facts of her story wrong. First of all, Jacinto says that, one, she was not trafficked by Mexican drug cartels, but by a pimp that operated as part of a family that entrapped vulnerable girls in order to force them into prostitution. Two, she also said that she was never trafficked in the United States, as Senator Britt appeared to suggest. And three, she was kept in captivity from 2004 to 2008 when President George W. Bush, a Republican, was in office as opposed to the current administration, as the senator implied. And finally, she met the senator at an event at the border with other government officials and anti-human trafficking activists instead of a one-on-one. CNN has confirmed much of what Jacinto has said in prior reporting, and her story hasn't changed since we first spoke. Jacinto told me no one reached out to her to ask for her permission to use her story as part of a political speech. Someone using my story and distorting it for political purposes, she told me, is not fair at all. As for Senator Britt, CNN reached out again to her office seeking comment, but so far we haven't heard back. This is what Senator Britt had to say in an interview with Fox News on Sunday about the story of Carla Jacinto.
Well, I very clearly said I spoke to a woman who told me about when she was trafficked when she was 12. So I didn't say a teenager. I didn't say a young woman, a grown woman, a woman when she was trafficked when she was 12. And so listening to her story, she is a victim's right advocate who is telling this is what drug cartels are doing. This is how they're profiting off of women. And it is disgusting. And so I am hopeful that it brings some light to it, and we can actually do something about human trafficking, and that's what the media actually decides to cover.
In a prior statement to CNN, a spokesperson for Britt's office neither confirmed nor denied Britt was sharing Jacinto's account, but said the story the senator told was, quote, 100% correct. Rafael Romo, CNN, Atlanta.
Worried about the future of our children, and this is why I've invited you into this strange, empty kitchen. Because Republicans wanted me to appeal to women voters, and women love kitchen.
Scarlett Johansson poking fun at Alabama Senator Katie Britt on SNL over her rebuttal to the president's State of the Union address. Britt's response has sparked some backlash, not just for the delivery, but also for a misleading anecdote that she cited about a woman who was sex trafficked by cartels. In an attempt to criticize President Biden over the border crisis, Britt failed to note the story she was citing actually happened in Mexico during George W. Bush's presidency. Britt addressed her critics over the weekend.
To be clear, the story that you relayed is not something that's happened under the Biden administration, that particular person.
Well, I very clearly said I spoke to a woman who told me about when she was trafficked when she was 12. So I didn't say a teenager. I didn't say a young woman, a grown woman, a woman when she was trafficked when she was 12.
All right, joining us now is CNN political commentator and the host of CNN's Smerconish, Michael Smerconish. Michael, good morning. I'm so grateful to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be seen.
And congratulations on 10 years of your show.
Thank you, Casey. That's nice of you to say.
Yeah, no, of course. It's awesome. And anyone who's not watching you on Saturdays should definitely check in and take a look. Let's start with this Brit saga. What did you make of her response, the fallout, everything on SNL?
So the curse of the State of the Union response continues. I had flashbacks of Marco Rubio drinking water. You know, something else that I said on radio last week is it's funny that Scarlett Johansson should have given this the treatment on SNL because I'm an SNL fan, but every once in a while there's a skit on SNL that bombs and I say, why during the rehearsal didn't someone flag it? Why during the Katie Britt rehearsal? Because it was totally scripted. Of course, there was one. Why didn't someone say, my God, your acting is way over the top. You got to rein it in? Because as misleading as we now understand the facts to have been, it's the performance that I think we're going to remember for a long time.
Yeah, not unfair in terms of what we'll remember. Let me show you just a little bit about, we did talk to the woman in question that Katie Britt referenced here at CNN. Here's what she told us. Watch.
Yes. In fact, I hardly ever cooperate with politicians because it seems to me that they only want an image. They only want a photo. And that to me is not fair. I work as a spokesperson for many victims who have no voice, and I really would like them to be empathetic. And I think she should first take into account what really happens before telling a story of that magnitude.
So it is interesting to put a voice to this woman in this case.
And the fact that the underlying sequence apparently took place on President George W. Bush's watch, to me, was just a reinforcement that there's so much culpability relative to the border to go around. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. It's an issue for all of them. And it just hasn't been solved on anybody's watch.
Yeah, and our government has repeatedly tried and failed since that era. I mean, the first time I was ever covering a failed immigration bill up on Capitol Hill was 2005, and George W. Bush was president. This is how long this has been going on.